And also because it's her life, it's perhaps more intrinsically interesting than if it was the life of somebody in a course book or whatever, and that's another issue. But also the fact that there were several examples in this text, as it were, so that there was data there for the students to work out the rules themselves. So they're doing a little bit of discovery of the rules, as opposed to being simply given them. Now, and this is very much a characteristic of the kind of methods. In fact, when I first started teaching, that I was trained, and that you gave students lots of examples of things, and then you hoped that they would work out the rules, but you weren't allowed to mention the rules. It was considered bad form, or confusing, or whatever. And this was the analogy, in fact, because children learn the language through exposure, repetition, context, etc. But they don't learn it through talking about using words like the auxiliary, the present perfect continuous, or the past participle, all that kind of thing. Therefore, fortunately, I think since in the period that I have been teaching present perfect continuous, people have recognised that people are adults and that they can deal with rules and they can deal with this kind of language to talk about language. So it's not taboo anymore. But nevertheless, I think there is a school of thought that says that you could possibly learn the language just by being exposed to lots of examples, and maybe lots of examples, and maybe having these examples kind of highlighted in some way, or having them constantly repeated. And you think how children might learn the present perfect continuous. I mean, there's a classic example would be the story of Goldilocks. Yeah? Goldilocks and the Three Bears, where they come back and they say, what do they say? There's the porridge half eaten, and Daddy Bear says, who's been eating my porridge? And then it's repeated, who's been, whatever, I don't know how it goes, who's been
sleeping my bed.
That comes in the end of it, who's been reading my magazines, who's been using my computer? I mean, you can build on all sorts of things. If you're teaching with kids, that's probably all you need to do, is tell the story, and have all these examples, and have them repeating them, and then tell the story again the next day. Because kids love hearing the story, and they'll start to chime in with a who's been, etc. And that's it. You don't actually need to mention grammar. They're getting it kind of as part of the whole story. There's a really neat, let me play you this. This is an idea that I've yet to see really done in English materials, although, actually as I say that, our sound man at the back of the room is doing similar things with kids' songs. And this is, songs and stories for kids are ideal. I mean, songs particularly because, again, they have a repetitive element. And feeding language into songs, and maybe all you need, particularly with kids. Maybe this is from a German course. I haven't seen the same kind of thing done quite so successfully. Hang on, let me speak German. This is from the book, and this is the actual.
Ich bin Ausländer und spreche nicht gut Deutsch. Ich bin Ausländer und spreche nicht gut Deutsch.
You've got the translation down here.
Bitte langsam, bitte sprechen Sie doch langsam. Ich bin Ausländer und spreche nicht gut Deutsch. Ich bin Ausländer und spreche nicht gut Deutsch. Ich bin Ausländer und spreche nicht gut Deutsch. Ich verstehe nicht, was Sie sagen, ich verstehe nicht, was Sie sagen. Ich bin Ausländer und spreche nicht gut Deutsch.
So you get the idea there. So although this is not exactly grammar, but this is part of a whole book of songs, which are, the tunes are well-known tunes. So, and the idea is that the students kind of map onto these tunes, these expressions, and that way, in a sense, they're getting, they go out the room singing the songs. And I mean, I don't speak a lot of German, but I know the song off by heart now because it's just really catchy. And, you can imagine this, okay, these are phrases, not so much grammar, but I mean, this is a starting point. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't write songs which had particular grammar patterns built in regularly, and of course, Alfred and Andy at the back have been doing that very well with kids' stuff. And you think, well, maybe that's all you need, at least to get a foothold into the language without any formal, talking about the rules as such. That would be a kind of, if you were, what you might call an implicit approach to learning the language. You're simply learning it implicitly without any explicit attention to the rules. As we say, well, maybe for adults, we can afford to focus on the rules explicitly because they can take it. It's probably good for them. And maybe shortcuts, well, it obviates the danger of them forming the wrong